Western angelical realm that we generally see as all white, where they colonize the afterlife and their images. What makes that one have more legitimacy than this one? When this concept of the figure of a divine entity or representing a spirit world is called the Ba, and what makes the white one more sacred than this? These images and representation that make up the Western world's image, whether it's afterlife under stained glass windows, whether it's images of the angelical realm and angels and all these figures and things that they got, it would not exist if it was not for this. This is where the whole idea came from. But in order to transcend time and space, we've got to get out of white idolatry. You've got to get out of white idolatry and start to see your own divinity as a spiritual representation. If you can't see your own spiritual divinity in your own spiritual representation, and you're still stuck in white idolatry, you are in the worst form of slavery. Because a person can be in a physical enslavement, but their minds can be free. A person can be physically incarcerated in jail, but I know brothers who are in jail who are more freer than brothers who are out here, who know more than what's going on out here. Political prisoners. Yes, political prisoners in the United States.
That's right.
Quite a few of them. Locked up. I've known some are locked up for 20-some years now. Okay? Fighting injustice. Okay, back in the 70s. So the same thing is that in order for us to see ourselves, if you can't see yourself in the divine space, if you can't see your own divinity, you can never see an eternity. You can never see yourself into the future. Because that representation is about controlling your whole spirituality. We've got to understand that. So when we go into a church, when you go back and you see these white angels, white representations and so forth, then you know that that church is practicing white idolatry. They can't tell you that when you went over there where they worship all those idols, how could they tell you you went to a place where they worship idols and they're in the biggest idolatry? If you go to Rome and go to St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, all you see, all nothing but popes, bishops, all these white images for the deification of European Christian art. All their Christian art is represented by them. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's only when you try to impose it on me and say, this is what it is. And then when you try to see your own divine space and tell you that you're a heathen for seeing your own divinity, that's where the problem comes in at. All people can see their own self represented in some angelical realm, but don't tell me that's what it is. And have some Negro who went to the cemetery school who's been taught that indoctrination, and he teaches it to his own people. Okay? To continue the spiritual enslavement. Like the Negro that jumped up when I was in Manchester, England, jumped up out of the audience. And I can't believe you talking about Adam and Eve and the white image. I said, how could you possibly get upset with this representation of the Adam and Eve? Who painted this? What image is it? What artist? Were they there at the beginning? Is it the beginning? Okay? Who told them this is what they look like? But that's the thorough indoctrination of what is called spiritual enslavement. When someone enslaves your soul where it cannot be free. So that Burdett, brothers and sisters, that's why we call our educational tour Know Thyself. And what is the symbol for Know Thyself? The Burdett. That you must open up your mind to fly into eternity. If you can't open up your mind and fly into eternity, then descend to that eternal hell. Because that's what it is. Eternal hell when your mind can't open up. Don't think hell is some place you're going to go to. Hell is right here on earth. And you experience hell in all kind of dimensions. You say it all the time. When you get broke, you broke as hell. Okay. You sick as hell. Your hell is right here. Whether it's the LAPD or whatever, New York PD, all of them, busting us upside the head. Okay? We are oppressed as hell. All right? So don't stop looking at hell as something that if you're going to pay enough money that you won't go. You're going to go because you paid the money and thought that you could get out of not going. And then God's up in the heaven counting your investment in the afterlife. This is the psychic of our people. It's the psychic of those big churches that you see all around. Okay? Now imagine if that power came together, okay, and pooled their resources together, where we would be at. For us, the betterment of the people, like those brothers used to do in the 17 and 1800s, when they were calling it as it is. So we got to speak like this because you are here, you've seen it. And you're really going to see the face of the beast when you go back, clearly now. Okay? You're going to see the depth of the hell that we're really in. Back to that hell again. Back to that hell that we're really in, brothers and sisters, when you go back. In all of its dimensions. So that's why we've got to start to transcend the time and space and see a future and start to look into the future as us as a people. And start to meditate on us collectively as a people, because it's that collective mind power that takes us to where we have to go. Not an individual mind power, but a collective mind power. As I said, if none of us knows, nobody knows. All right? So I feel I don't know nothing, brothers and sisters, because nobody else knows. When you go to you can't go to a white Christian and tell them who's Jesus. All of them know who their white Jesus is. They all know. That's a white supremacy power that pulls them together. They all know. Now imagine if everybody knew, every black person on the planet, who a SAR is, representing resurrection. We all know. So that pulls together a collective power. See? That's what I'm talking about. Until that happens, there ain't no such thing as scholars. I hate the word scholar. What's the difference of a scholar and nobody knows now? What's the difference of scholars, or even if we're doctors and we don't have nothing? It doesn't mean anything but to feed our ego of how white folks have trained us. Until you got the big institutions that's controlled by us, that our people can go to, and generations after generations can be educated into knowing thyself. That's why I mentioned and evoked the spirit of Dr. Asa Hilliard, or let me take it back, Tajeti. He said, let's use Jegna. Yes, let's use Tajeti. Stop using white folks' titles. Because who gave him the first doctor? Start evoking the spirit of what the brothers and sisters used here. That's what we've got to do, to sever what we have taught ourselves about ourselves versus what white folks have trained us to know about them. We use Jegna, we use Tajeti, we use these terms. And then that way it could be a connection that each and every one of us have got to liberate each other. What difference does it make that we got some Greek stuff, this and a booba baka that, and branding ourselves? I thought we had enough branding on the plantation.
That's right.
And brothers proud of that stuff. On college campus, want to jump up because I'm talking about their Greek masters, huh? And all this stuff. You're the grand masters of this. As, by the way, has even said it as well. So we've got to, transcend out of this space and time and start to have a sorority and a fraternal order for the liberation. If we're going to be on a campus, then your job and mission is to make sure that that brother and sister can get off that white supremacy canvas. That's psychological gas chamber. That's what white folks' classes are. Psychological gas chambers. Negroes, the more degrees Negro get, the more crazier they become. Right. And you know I'm telling you the truth. Right. Okay? Dr. Ben said, the PhD, piled high and deep.
Sugar, honey, iced tea.
Huh?
Sugar, honey, iced tea.
Right. So, we got to look at it from all dimensions, because what I'm saying and what I'm talking about It's not in this day, brothers and sisters, but it's for the future. But it's got to start with the planting of the seeds and the thought and evoking of an African spirit that transcends time and space, the fastest moving energy in the universe. So I know that when the day comes that I have to give up this physical body, at least I knew I told the truth.
That's right.
Right on.
At least I knew I was free enough that I told the truth.
Yes, sir.
And I can tell white folks, no, I'm not going to your hell heaven. And if you go there and they there, you know you in hell. You're going to get oppressed again. You're going to get oppressed again. But you know the Last Supper, you know we was in the kitchen cooking the meal. We ain't there. We
at the table.
Somebody who cooked the meal. I want to know who cooked the white folks' meal at the table. We was in the kitchen. Those are the Negroes that wanted to go to white folks' heaven who cooked the meal.
Right, right.
You my slave here, you cook the meal. You got to think like this, brothers and sisters. I know it's hard.
No, it's not.
But I'm talking and thinking freedom.
Yes.
Sir.
If I know I don't get it here, I know that I'm going to get it in the African afterlife.
That's it, bro.
All right? That African goddess that said you was for us, brother.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
That's how we got to see it. That's what this is all about. Now, I know some of us thought maybe, did you all know this was a liberating tour? I hope so. And some people didn't know, and we were told in past trips, I didn't know it was going to be this kind of trip, but I'm happy it is because now I'm free. So that's what it's all about. So we have to do our business and be all spooks in doing our business. And don't go back to your job and tell white folks what you learned and what they all about now. You know, you may not get your pass to get off the plantation. You know, you just tell them you went to Europe. Don't tell them you went to Africa. You came here. Right, you tell them you went to Europe. Because this is a mental warfare. And like any type of mental warfare, you don't tell your enemy what you're doing. When I was in the system, I loved the lie. And then I went back and laughed at my own lie. That's what you got to do. You know, I got to see the Sistine Chapel. I remember that. But I didn't think I was going to get off. You know, everybody was having their vacation in there. I said, I've always wanted to see that. Michelangelo, the Sistine Chapel, and God out of the heaven. Oh, I got to see it. That don't mean a damn thing to me. All right? You ever seen it? No, I've never seen it. Talked about it a lot, but I've never seen it. All right. And looked like some funny stuff and pedophile stuff, all kind of little strange stuff going on up in there anyway.
Yeah.
You really take a look at it. All right? But I'm saying that's what you tell them. Because they know that, okay, because they say, oh, okay, he's safe and secure. I'm going to give you the pass to go. That's how you got to work. All right?
Caucasians probably got the concept of the Jedi from Tajedi.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This is critical thinking. Critical thinking. Those movies that they make are based off of this. That whole Stargate thing in another world, okay, that comes from the divination plate of Nigeria, where the spirit, where the Babalawo, okay, makes his divinations, okay, into that spiritual realm, and his plate is in a circular form. They take it and make Stargate out of it. You go through this plate and circle to go into another world. All these things, okay, definitely came from African people. We've got to study these things critically when we start to look at it. But of course, if we don't know nothing about ourselves, they just pass right in front of us without having a critical analysis of what they mean. Our babies sit in front of TV and watch cartoons and watch Touchstone, the little demon character in the movie. So of course they're going to be frightened of anything. See, this is a mental warfare going on, and we don't even know it. Knowing that we are studying this and going back to this sacred knowledge, and knowing that what you know now, you should have known when you were children, so they grab our babies. Right. So the babies, while we're over in Kemet, our babies are at home watching cartoons and Stutsteins and mummified Imhoteps as demons and villains, and all these things are still going on all the time. But they're never going to have no white Serapis Jesus represented as some demon or villain. They're never going to have any of their white heroes, whether it's from biblical stories or it's from historical stories, represented as demons and villains, because that would scar the psychic of the white child. in relationship to itself and its relationship to their own people. So this is the scar on our psyche when these things are played out on us all the time, especially our children. So take time out to take some of the pictures here, but again, that's the African soul. And that's what we got to get back, the African soul.
When you try and explain certain things, you're just being racist.
Well, I think we should use some of that racism. I think because if white supremacy had become power with being racist, then maybe we should try a little racism. Okay, racism only means you care about your race. I care about my race. And if we don't have anybody else caring about our race, we're in trouble. So I think we should use a little bit of that. It worked for them. It's still working for them. So yeah, call me a racist. I'll go with that.
But it depends what your definition of,
Well, first of all, the real fact of it is we don't have no power anyway to be that anyway. But I'm saying if that's what white folks have maintained their power with, then we better use some of that. So I'm only caring about our race. Huh? Well, a lot of the releases and everything is not.